What's up, guys? Welcome to the first episode of the American Renegades podcast. Welcome. I'm Nakoa. I go by Roka, Ro. And I'm just going to kick back, have a cigar, drink a little whiskey, kick back with you guys. I want to apologize in advance for the quality of the video, possibly the audio, because I just couldn't wait to get on. I'm using my phone. I have cameras and tripod, mics, and all that good stuff. And it's just a matter of scheduling with the boys and the rest of the crew and get us all on here so we could have like open conversations and stuff like that. Guys, I'm sorry I couldn't reach out, but Angel Cruz, Mario Batista, Justin Pete, what's going on? Big shout out to them. You guys meet them eventually. But welcome and thank you for the support. Don't be afraid to leave comments at the bottom. Ask questions. We'll have open discussions right there at the bottom. I'll reply to the best that I can and things like that. But I figured I wanted to take this time, kick back, smoke a cigar, hang out with you guys, or rather kind of talk to myself because that's what it feels like. Yeah, I wanted to unpack a little bit of everything that's going on, and I couldn't wait. I was going to post last week and kind of go with the approach of, hey, this is not like this is how you should vote, but more like just to give insight or perspective, because everybody's highly emotionally invested into this election, most that it's ever been. I think over 150 million Americans casted in to vote. I think last year, the last election, this 2016, I think it was only 30 million or 40 million. Could be wrong. If anybody wants to check that out and let me know what the number is. I'm not going to be fact checking everything. But I know it was like significantly less. It was significantly less. So there was a big, big turnout. And, we did our part, right? We went ahead and we did our thing. Now it's just a waiting game. And it's going to be drama. Just I anticipated. Anybody that knows me knows I've already said, like, hey, we're going to go out, we're going to vote, we're going to do our thing. But then now we're going to see like drama. You know what I mean? So, but with everything that's been going on with, friends and family and having some of these discussions, we've never been in like heated debates the way that we have been lately. Oh, this person said that. This person said this. I don't like that. I don't like this. It's a lot of, back and forth and bickering, and it gets heated. But at the end of the day, we love each other. Family we got to deal with, but friends is the family we get to choose, right? So at the end of the day, it's all love. It's never while it might be passionate, it might be a passionate conversation. It's never a disrespectful one. So mad love to my crew, my friends, my family. Who've always been supportive, regardless of me being an asshole or whatever. Oh, my bad. Well, I'm going to try my best not to cuss so much. Not that I cuss a lot. I don't cuss that much unless I'm being passionate. But, yeah, I'm going to try to, like, restrict as much as I can. I want to be as professional. Well, not as professional, but I just want to be myself and try not to, shout at the place. I'm on YouTube. Thank you, YouTube. For letting me use this platform and get to speak my mind a little bit with some friends and family. Don't be afraid to like, share, and all that other good stuff. But I wanted to take this opportunity. I didn't want to wait. I wanted to unpack a lot of what's been going on and listening and observing to or being present to some of these discussions and conversations or being part of some of these conversations that have been taking place among my friends and family, colleagues, and stuff like that. It's been interesting. It's been interesting. I just got a Facebook about like 4 months ago or so. I'm new. I haven't had a Facebook ever. And it's been eye-opening. It's been a learning experience. And I got to see I don't have like many friends. I see some people, they got like 5,000 friends on Facebook. Like, all right, you don't know all those. You don't know all those people. There's no way you can know all those people. But anyways, yeah, I just got a Facebook and I've been exposed to different versions of my friends and different versions of, colleagues and things like that, people that I used to work with. And I'm just like, oh, well, I didn't, we were always cool. I didn't know you put out your business out there like that. You know what I mean? Or their perspective on certain situations, be it cultural events, be it politics and what have you. And it's been interesting, and it's been a learning experience. You know what I mean? So while I revere character, it exposed other personality traits that I never been exposed to. And it's not to say that I don't like this or that person. I was like, oh, okay, well, that's new information. You know what I mean? It's like, I didn't know you saw things like that. I didn't know you felt that strongly about that situation or this situation or whatever the case is. So, yeah, let's get into it. I don't want to say that I was surprised how emotionally invested people were in this election, but with a lot of their concerns in regards to, race and civil rights and all of these things, we actually have a template that was done for us in the 60s that we could refer to and look back on and use that as a reference point. Like I said, it's like a template. So, okay, what was going on back there? What caused that? You know what I'm saying? What were some of the consequences to the things that happened then? What can we learn and make different now? And what have you? So there is a lot of differences, and there's a lot of things that is I don't want to say misconstrued, but misplaced. So while a lot of people are amped up, a lot of people are emotionally triggered with everything that's going on, be it the pandemic, be it civil rights, be it race, be it the economy, be it whatever it is. A lot of it pertains to culture, race, and everything that's going on. So I wanted to go back and kind of unpack some of these things and go back and compare certain things to today. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was not just why, but kind of like with everything that's going on, it's kind of just hard to just point at. There's plenty. If the guys were here, you would see we won't have a problem getting into a topic. But I'm here by myself, and there's echo in the room and stuff. But I want to apologize too if I'm not looking, because it just looks weird looking at myself and talking. So I'm here winging this whole thing. And I've never done anything like this before either. But anyways, I wanted to go back and compare some of the events that happened back then to some of the events that are happening now, and what the differences are. And there are a lot. But I want to start with saying a quote. I got it here. I'll just go ahead and I'll read it. I took some notes, bullet points as to what I want to talk about. And quote, "The media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent. And that's power, because they control the minds of the masses." That was Malcolm X that said that. That was the 60s. And we're living that and going through that right now. And a lot of it, and it's amplified. It's like media on steroids, because now we got social media too. So we got Facebook, we got Twitter, we got YouTube, we got Google, we got what's that, TikTok now. Everybody's voided out with all of these sources of information. Then we got mainstream media. We got CNN, we got Fox, we got BBC, we got MSNBC, NBC, ABC. I mean, it goes forever. It goes forever. And then we got local news and stuff. So a lot of the information that we're getting, I've learned that professionalism, ethics, and integrity when it pertains to journalism is out the window. That's gone. It's a wrap. It's no longer, I don't even want to say that it doesn't even hold that much value, or it's not even that credible anymore, because there's no longer, there's no accountability to reporting the news, and they don't have integrity in doing so. And a lot of the things, there's been mistakes made, or sometimes blatantly, and they don't even have the sense of professionalism or the ethics or the integrity to go back and retract that statement. Excuse me, where they say, "Oh, that was a mistake. That was I was misinformed," or what have you. They don't even take it back. They just let it sit. Like, all right, well, it is what it is, and it's a lot of that going around. Now it's no longer about, getting your sources on the record. It's no longer about where you're getting your resources from, where you're getting your information from. There's no accountability. There's no accountability there. And it's kind of just like a bag in the wind. You know what I mean? And this is where we have to get our information from. And these people aren't even being held accountable for things. It's all about who gets there first. What's the news network that gets there first? They don't even care about that accuracy. They just want to hey, we're the first company, we're the first organization, corporation, whatever, or news media outlet that gets there, and we're saying it first. A case in point, God bless him, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. Just a couple of months ago, beginning of the year, there was a helicopter crash. Tragic. News outlet gets there. I think it was TMZ. They were instructed by law enforcement not to report it. They did it anyway. And for about 3 to 4 hours, we thought it was Kobe Bryant and his whole family. We thought it was Kobe Bryant and his daughters. We thought it was Kobe Bryant and, you know what I'm saying? So we didn't know who died, who was involved, what happened for 3 to 4 hours, because that information wasn't leaked. It was all about who got there first. And the rest of the general public was kind of like, well, I don't know. I was texting friends back and forth. Yo, did you hear what happened? Yo, is it true? Nah, it can't be true. You know what I'm saying? We were second guessing each other. I was like, is this a stunt? Is this happening? There's been situations in the past where a celebrity would pass away and he's like, nah, man, I'm right here. I can't remember who it was, but there's been several. It was not just one time. It happened a couple of times, and now when it pertains to political science and what they're teaching in colleges and degrees, it's not about how to govern. Now it's all about how to win an election and doing it pretty much by any means necessary. If it comes to defaming someone's character, then that's what it comes down to. If it comes down to, criticizing somebody openly about whatever decisions or policies, whatever it was that went down, it excuse me, there is no line that can't be crossed. You know what I'm saying? So, and mind you, some of these people are people that we put in office. I'm not just talking about the presidential being president. I'm just overall governors, mayors, congressmen, especially congressmen. And this is just stuff that I'm noticing, and I feel like nobody else is really talking about it, and nobody else is really putting weight to it. There's a far more crucial time or moment that we're going through right now as a country. And it doesn't have to do with race. It doesn't have to do with the economy. It doesn't have to do with immigration. It doesn't have to do with any of those things. And nobody's really talking about it. But there's a reason why I called our podcast American Renegades. You know what I mean? Because we value the Constitution. And it's like my sister Lily said, you know, her and I would have these conversations from time to time. And she said it perfectly. It was like, it's a timeless legal document that protects not just our civil rights and our civil liberties and all that other stuff, but the rights of being a human being. You know what I mean? So like, I want to have an opportunity to protect my wife, my kids, my family with a gun. You know what I mean? In case we have an intruder or, you know, a tyrannical government. Right? Like I want to have an opportunity to save my family's life or save my own life. Freedom of speech. There's cancel culture everywhere. Oh, we don't like what you're saying. Get rid of it. Massachusetts recently passed a law where you can't say bitch in a derogatory way. Otherwise, you know, you'll get fined, and I think you can serve up to 6 months in jail or whatever it is. I think it's like $500 or $600. I forget what the fine is, but it's a significant amount of money, and it's a nice chunk. Maybe not compared to some other people, you know what I mean? But $500 for to check families and stuff like that, that shit goes a long way. So, but we can say the N word. If there's anything that we should not be allowed to say, that word we can say, but bitch, we can't. So when we have conversations and we have discussions, be it in business, if you're going to negotiate your salary and things like that, whatever type of negotiating, there are things that you will not negotiate. There are things called non-negotiables. I'm not letting that go. I'm playing this close to the chest. I don't want to talk about that. This is not up for grabs. We'll talk about anything else. But what else do you want? Because I'm not getting rid of this, you know? And the Constitution should be that. The Constitution should be a non-negotiable. We're not talking about it. Now, people make comments and say things like, oh, well, you know, time changes and we have to adapt and all of that kind of stuff. But all of it's irrelevant. It really pertains to not just your civil rights and stuff like that, but as a human being, you should have the right to speak your mind and say whatever you want. You should be able to protect yourself. You know what I'm saying? There's a litany of reasons as to our founding fathers were pretty much aware and were careful with the words that they chose to describe this document. And it is timeless. It's a timeless legal act because it doesn't matter how advanced we get with technology or whatever the case is, that remains the same. That remains the same. But that doesn't stop a party, a specific party, to find a way around it. Where they're still following the law, still following the Constitution, and they kind of just go behind the skirt and do whatever it is that they want anyway. They'll find a loophole. Right? So with that, let's go back, right? Because history repeats itself. So you've had friends in life, be it colleagues at work or what have you. You've had situations at some point where someone was kind of being, all right, let me pull back for a second. Let me gather my thoughts. Man, this thing is smooth. Irish whiskey, writer's tears. Oh man, I like it. Anyways, yeah, let's go back to what I'm trying to say, so I could explain myself without anybody diving on me. Well, all right. So you've heard the phrase "actions speak louder than words," right? Actions speak louder than words. We've all heard that. We've all heard that at some point. And to some degree, and to some effect, that's true. That's accurate information, right? We can honestly say that's like, well, that's true. We've been in relationships or with, spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, where they're like, oh, baby, I love you. And then they go, a couple months later, they go and they cheat on you, right? Then they come back, you confront them, they're like, oh, baby, it was just sex. I didn't mean nothing. It was only physical. I have a house with you. I have kids and blah, blah, blah. I love you. All right, cool. Everything's fine. They fixed it. And then a couple minutes later, he does it again, or she does it again, right? And then we revisit the situation. Oh, baby, you know what I'm saying? Like now they're saying they love you, right? They're using words. They're saying they love you. But are they showing you? No. They're not showing you that they love you at all, right? But with that being said, you can still question actions too. Because sometimes actions come with hidden motives. Sometimes actions come with hidden agendas. And I've had this conversation with a lot of my friends and stuff. We had that one friend at one point where, they're being nice to you, or a colleague or somebody, they're being nice to you, and it's out of the ordinary. Maybe it's like they're extra nice. They're doing favors for you. They buy you lunch. They do, whatever. You know what I'm saying? And it's out of the ordinary. It's not something that's typical. You know what I mean? So it kind of just raised the red flags. Like, oh wow, that was different. That's nice. You don't put too much thought into it. It's like, all right, well, that was cool. And you guys hang out and you hang out a little bit more. And then later they ask you the really big favor, right? They were kind of just trying to butter you up, and just so they could, they needed something from you. So that was a hidden motive. That was a hidden agenda. So their actions weren't genuine. You know what I'm saying? It was hidden. They needed something for themselves. They needed something that benefited them. They didn't care about you necessarily. They just needed, maybe with friends is different. You know what I'm saying? We're friends, like I said, friends are the family we get to choose. Somebody needs something, yo, hit me up. I got you. You know what I mean? It's not even necessarily a favor. Just ask me. If I can do it, I'll do it. You know what I mean? But yeah, so actions speak louder than words. That's true. But you can question actions. But you know what you can trust? Always, what's reliable? Always, patterns. Patterns you can rely on. You can see how someone dictates their life with patterns. The decisions that they make. How they end up in the same situation over and over and over again. How they end up with the same, boyfriend or girlfriend over and over and over again. Why they end up in the same rut over and over and over again with their finances. Why they, you know what I'm saying? It goes on. It goes on and on and on and on and on. You know what I'm saying? Because they have a pattern. They'll be doing well, then they fall back. Then, whatever. There's patterns. Patterns you could trust. Patterns cause red flags. Right? Okay. Oh, whoa, what are you talking about? Patterns. All right, cool, fine. All right, well, now we're going to go ahead and unpack some of this. Right? And I just want to make you guys aware of certain things. And let me know if that makes sense. Let me know if it makes sense at all. Abraham Lincoln was the first Republican president that we've ever had. 16th president. What was his most notable achievement during his presidency? If I'm to ask that question, what would the answer to that question be? Most would say he freed the slaves, right? 13th, 14th Amendment. All right. Fine. Cool. So slaves are free. Yay. No more slaves. Cool. Abolish slavery. Black Americans, happy as hell. Awesome. The majority of Black Americans, when they had the opportunity to vote, that were Black, were Republicans. All of them. A big portion of them were all Republicans. I'm not going to get into the switch and all that other stuff. I'm not going to do all that. I know about it. I got you. I'm just not going to get into it. But shortly thereafter, what happened to Abraham Lincoln? He was shot. He was assassinated. He was killed. The greatest achievement that he had in his presidency, and later he was shot and killed, assassinated. All right, well, what happened thereafter? Well, after that, Jim Crow laws, segregation, right? It's like, all right, you know what, Black Americans free? Fine, but they can't go into my church. They can't go into my restaurant. They got to sit in the back of the bus. They can't drink out of my water fountain. They can't use my bathroom. They can't go to my church. It goes on. Now, it stayed like that. That was the status quo for practically 100 years. Practically 100 years. 100 years. Let's just call it 100 years. It stayed like that. Generation after generation of unfairness, of being treated unfairly, of being chastised out in public. Like, it was insane. The amount of bullcrap that Black Americans had to go through. And in doing so, throughout that 100 years, accepting Jesus Christ, accepting that faith and religion. Now, notably, they came from Africa, from different tribes, different languages. They come here and they learn the language, they learn English, and then they're taught this religious faith. Black people are the most spiritual, faithful people in this country. In this passionate, invested, devoted, devout. Not to say that Hispanic culture is for sure. You know, I'm not going to even get into that. But there are morals and values that were instilled in those households. So I mean, they even during slavery had faith and prayed and worked under those conditions and things like that. And then we look at compared to now, where we're at right now as a society, not just, you know, as a race and stuff like that. I'm gonna delve into that too later, but in a little while. But I don't want to get into that right now. Right now, I'm kind of just, we're going back in time a little bit. But yeah, so anyways, that was the status quo for almost 100 years. Right? So, well, what changed? What changed? Well, there was an incident that happened in 1955 with a 14-year-old boy who allegedly catcalled or whistled a white woman, and broke into his house. He was beaten, lynched, thrown in the river. Happened in 1955, and his name was Emmett Till. He was a 14-year-old kid. God bless that boy's mother and that family. Whoever his descendants is, wherever his relatives are today. For the courage for that woman to have, to display her son in an open casket for the country to see. There aren't any words for it. There aren't words for that. But Emmett Till mutilated body, battered body, face was displayed on Time magazine, newspapers, articles, like all throughout the nation. Now, mind you, this is all obviously pre-social media and all that other stuff. But that was the spark. That was the moment where it was enough. That was the tipping point. That was the sacrifice that it took that woke everybody up. And not just Black Americans, but white Americans as well. To this day, white Americans still outnumber us 70% or something like that. There are more white people, per capita, demographically, there are more white people than there are any other race. And that's fine. Not all of them are racist. Not all of you have. I don't want to say that racism doesn't exist. It exists. It will always exist. You can't get rid of it. It will never get rid of it. You'll always have racism. You'll always have prejudice. There's no way to heal that and learn from that. It's natural human behavior. We even have that among our own cultures. Racism. It's been all throughout. What does exist is decent people and indecent people. Good people and evil people. You have Black murderers, rapists, and pedophiles. You have white murderers, rapists, and pedophiles, and serial killers. You have Hispanic rapists. It goes down the line. It's every culture, man. It's every culture. You have good people, you have evil people. Does racism exist? Yeah, to a degree. But you know what? It's not as paramount or as present as it used to be back in the 60s, the 50s, 40s. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the most non-racist country. And if anyone has traveled outside of the United States and been to like different countries, you might have a little taste of it. You might see a little bit of it. It goes unspoken, but when you go to you see it plainly when you go to an airport. When I'm out there and I'm waiting for my bag or my luggage or whatever, I'm not gonna get into the country or whatever, but I've noticed that there was people significantly further away from me. I didn't think of it as anything. It was just like, okay, whatever, and took my bags and I was on my own way. When we're here in America and I travel from here to Florida or here to Cali, I could be next to them. Everybody's like all up next to each other. There's no disgust. There's no like, I just find that telling. But everybody wants to come here. Everybody wants to make something themselves here. So does racism exist? Yeah. But it's not as hindering that mainstream media is trying to make it seem. That's not true at all. You can't buy it. You can't. We've had. There's nothing that you could tell me that can convince me of that. Otherwise, here pretending in this country again. Like, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I'm not saying that there aren't towns or counties or cities in certain parts of this great country where people are still living that way, or people are still dealing with that, and that's a reality for them. I'm not dismissing that. I'm not invalidating that at all. But you know what? You're not a tree. We're not trees. You can get up, move. Don't like where you work? Get another job. Sharpen up your resume. Take a night course. Do something. Be proactive in improving your life and changing your situation. Nobody is stopping you. Nobody's stopping me from making this episode or this podcast, despite me not having all the right stuff. Me, let me wait. I just want to do it perfect. Well, if you wait to do it perfect, you'll never do it, right? So I'm just using my phone. I got to stand here and I'm talking with you guys. Nothing stopping you from getting any level of achievement that you want to reach. if I was to line up a whole bunch of successful Black Americans, Denzel Washington, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, even Snoop, Oprah, Van Jones, Thomas Sowell, all these people, and line them up against the wall. And if I was to ask them a question and be like, have you ever throughout your life experienced racism? I'm pretty sure they're going to say yeah. I'm pretty sure 80-90% of them, they're going to be like, yep. Lil Wayne, there was an interview when he was asked that question, and he was appalled by it. He got upset about it, like legit got upset about it on several occasions. Like, yo, I'm a Black rich man living in America. What are you talking about? And the racism, if I dealt with racism. And he goes on and he tells a story about him being shot when he was like 12 years old in the chest. And there was a white dude, a white cop, that picked him up, brought him to a hospital, and stayed with him. Mind you, when they broke into the apartment or whatever, I'm trying to remember what it was that the way he explained it. But the majority of those people, I think he lived in Louisiana, grew up in Louisiana, and they went right over him. He shot, bleeding out. They just confiscated, looked for stuff, ransacked the place. These are cops. The majority of the cops that broke those were Black Americans, and this guy just came out. So does racism exist? Yeah, and sometimes it's both ways. Sometimes we have Blacks being racist towards Hispanics or whites. Again, it comes from like maybe their own personal experience and it's bitter. We've all been there. Hell, I've been there. Not with racism particularly, but just with certain situations where I've had my reservations going into a particular situation where my previous experience kind of just made me pull back. I'm like, all right, well, we've been through this before. I'm not trying to go down that road again. You know what I mean? So we've all had that at some point. So Abraham Lincoln gets assassinated and they start Jim Crow laws. So they added a 13th Amendment to the Constitution. They abolished slavery, and then they find a way around it where they can still make their lives live in hell. And that was the status quo for 100 years. Emmett Till gets taken out, and that was the thing that initiated the whole civil rights movement, the real civil rights movement, not this crap that we're seeing now. This is I don't care what anybody says. Fight me. Like, this is bull crap. If Martin Luther King and all these guys, they would see this today, they would be beside themselves. They'll be beside themselves. Straight up. So, but let's unpack that a little bit more. So 1955, that was the spark that whole started with Emmett Till. And it took almost 10 years to get the civil rights movement, the Civil Rights Act done. That's a Million Man March, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, with his movement, right? And it was John F. Kennedy who pushed that, the Civil Rights Act. Democrat, white Democrat. He was one of the good ones. What happened to John F. Kennedy? Yeah, he was assassinated too. Now, I understand too, there are a lot of variables that go into that. You have the Bay of Pigs and the missile crisis and all of that stuff. CIA, I get all that. I get all that stuff. But the bottom line is JFK was making some waves. He was making some waves. He was rocking the boat, and it was in different areas, different industries. He's becoming a nuisance. I think he wanted to disband the CIA and just concentrate on the Pentagon and give those powers to the Pentagon or something like that. So I'm not invalidating or dismissing any of that other stuff that didn't come into play. I'm not. But you could also add to it with the Civil Rights Act. So there's that. Not just that, but then Medgar Evers was assassinated. A prominent civil rights activist, Maya Angelou, Muhammad Ali, all these figures, Jim Brown, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, some of these players. That was an actual movement. The Million Man March. What happened to Malcolm X? He was assassinated. What happened to Medgar Evers? He was assassinated. What happened to Martin Luther King? 68, assassinated. You see a pattern? Is that enough? Now, what's important to you? So, like, if you have someone that you don't agree with, that you don't really like, but they have the same values that you do, would you vote for that person? Now, he's not a nice person. Doesn't have, he's not the kindest person. Maybe doesn't have the greatest character. He's brash and all that other crap. But his values align with yours. But then you have this other person who is kind, who is respectful, who is nice and endearing and all of that other stuff. But he doesn't hold your values. Would you vote for him because he's a nice guy or a nice woman? Because they're nice and they do nice things and they say nice things? Or do you want somebody that's going to protect the non-negotiables? Economies go up and down, man. It's like the stock market. The stock market goes up and down. Everything's temporary. Everything's temporary. But the things that we don't negotiate is the Constitution. And this party doesn't stop. We're being censored. We're being, and again, this is not something that we've never seen before. Ancient Rome held gladiatorial games. They held circuses. They fed the populace with bread, food. They gave them food. They didn't allow freedom of expression. They lowered education. But see, now we're learning. They give us freedom of expression with all these apps and stuff like that, but we can't have certain opinions either, because you'll get blocked on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. You see a pattern? We are unknowingly giving away our civil rights. And they're manipulating it in such a way, in such a fashion, that they're going to get us to want it. Whenever a government comes out and they start saying, for your own safety, that's a red flag for me. That's a red flag for me. For your own safety, because you can never be too safe. You can go on that forever. You can create a boogeyman that lives under your bed forever. Oh, it's for your own safety. Now we're in this pandemic. These people got a template now how to hold us all down. They determine what's essential, not essential. This Friday, they're going to instill a curfew, an advisory curfew here in Massachusetts. Here it comes again. Now, whether Trump wins the election or not, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? But I don't say that I don't care, but it's not as important. The presidential election is important, but it's not pivotal. It's not pivotal. It's not something that we need to get. A president comes in every 4 years, and more oftentimes than not, they get reelected. But then they're gone, and that's it. They can't run to be a president again. So maybe he wins, maybe he doesn't. But if you guys can't get your way this time, you'll get it next time. It's inevitable. It seems like that's the direction that this country is going in anyway. Pertaining to socialism, they want the $15 an hour mandate to be federally across the board. $15? What? You know what that would do to corporations? Well, not corporations, but small businesses? that employ at the time, 70-80% of the population. People need to start waking up. This whole situation, it has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with any of that stuff. Now, when it comes to like cancel culture, Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter, and all these quote unquote movements, who's leading them? Who's in front saying, "Hey, this is how we do it"? Nobody. It was three black women who founded Black Lives Matter. But what have they done for Black lives? That one weekend, I think it was Father's Day weekend, where they had 104 people shot up in Chicago. Did they hold any funerals or buy caskets or anything like that with all hundreds of $1 million that they've raised? What about Baltimore, Flint, Detroit, whatever? I haven't seen that being publicized in any aspect when it pertains to mainstream media. And if that was a great time to capitalize on it too. It could have been like, hey, look what Black Lives Matter did. This little girl got shot 3 years old, and they paid all the funeral expenses. So they didn't have the family didn't have to worry or stress about that. I didn't see any of those kind of reports. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't live in those areas. You know what I'm saying? So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they did good things and they just wanted to keep it hush hush. I don't know. But it wasn't reported. It wasn't, out on Front Street like everything else. There's a strong bias pertaining to the mainstream media and social media. And like this quote said with Malcolm X, I just read to you, I'll read it again. The media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent. And that's power because they control the minds of the masses. And back then, that was newspapers, man. That was newspapers, magazine articles, and news media. It ain't as amped up as it is today, where it's everywhere. And then you got people doing podcasts and, other sources of information, other news networks. You got the Daily Wire with Ben Shapiro and all those guys. You got the Michael Noe Show. You got Klavan. You got I'm drawing a blank now. Anyways, there's so many. There's a lot. But there's a lot of guys that, they come up with a podcast and they push either their own narrative and propaganda, or sometimes they're genuinely the truth. Personally, I read the Epoch Times, EPOCH, Epoch Times. You can download their app. I think they're charging now a monthly rate or something like that. But they deliver a newspaper also. That's a credible news source that I've come across that's unbiased. It doesn't sway opinions. You got to be more diligent with what's going on. People take things out of context and they can cut and edit things and contextualize it to benefit their narrative. So when we see things at face value, we take it as a truth. And we believe it. And of course, because we're going to believe what we see and what we hear. But if that's taken out of context and we didn't hear the whole story, then, that's whose fault is that? You can't blame me for thinking of what I thought, because that's what I saw. But there's a history and there's patterns. And I think it behooves everyone to pay more attention and to be more involved with their local government when it pertains to their congressman, when it pertains to their governor, when it pertains to their mayor, their city councilman, things like that, especially their congressman. We only get a president every 4 years, 8 at the most, at the most. A congressman, uncontested, they could stay in that seat, congressional seat, for 30 years, 40 years, like one of these candidates, 47 years in politics. He was a senator and a congressman. They need, and then with the whole Supreme Court justice, they were up in arms because of Amy Coney Barrett and all that stuff, and Roe versus Wade and all this nonsense and all that other crap. Now they wanted to try to invoke term limits to Supreme Court justices, 18 years or something like that, and they're going to pack the court. So when they're losing, they want to change the rules. They've done it before. They do it all the time. And they pander. They pander. They think we're stupid. With the whole George Floyd thing, George Floyd, when he passed away and that went down the way that it did, and Nancy Pelosi and her crew went into the Congress hallway or walkway or whatever it was, and they were wearing those kente cloths scarves, and they had like some African print, beautiful design and stuff like that. And they all took a knee in the hallway there in the lobby for like 8 minutes or whatever. It was like the same amount of time that the cop and George Floyd thing. And like straight pandering to the Black Americans. We're not even African. We're not African anymore. I don't understand that. And then come to find out that those kente cloths belong to an ancient civilization out of Ghana. I think it was Ghana. It was an ancient tribe, and they wore the kente cloths for ceremonies. And they were from the Ashanti tribe, if I'm not mistaken. The Ashanti tribe. And the Ashanti tribe were slave owners. Maybe that is the reason that they did it. Who knows? Maybe that is the reason that they wore them. But man, there's a we got to wake up as a country, man. Congress needs term limits. Everybody knows who President Trump is. Everybody knows who Joe Biden is. Everybody knows who Mike Pence is. Everybody knows who Kamala Harris is. But they can't tell me who their local congressman is. Or how many congressmen do they have in their state, in their district, that represent them. A lot of people are oblivious to that. And they have elections every 2 years. But if they go unchallenged, they keep the seat. They retain it. I think there was a congressman who's like 6, 7 generations in. They've literally left off their seat to their kids. It's insane. And why are they like 80 years old and still in office? They make $174,000 a year. I think Nancy Pelosi, because she's Speaker of the House, she makes a little bit more, like maybe 190 or whatever, but she's worth like $200 million. How? We know what you make. We pay you. Now, I'm not saying you can't have a business on the side or make deals or whatever, as long as it's like clean and legitimate. I'm not above somebody elevating their life. Not at all. I'm not stopping nobody from that. But if it's going to go at the expense of my civil rights and my civil liberties, you can get out. I'm not for sale. Maybe you're for sale, but we're not for sale. You know what I mean? And that's what a lot of what's going on. And every time there's some movement nowadays, there's nobody leading from the front. Alexander the Great had an army, I think, of over 100,000 people. He knew every single name of every person in his freaking military. And he knew their fathers. By name. He knew them all. He was revered, loved. Martin Luther King, revered, loved. Malcolm X, revered, loved. And what did he do? They led from the front. They led from the front. They led by example. That was like, you know what? We're going to go on this march and we're going to do nonviolent. We're going to be nonviolent. Martin Luther King stressed and was adamant about being nonviolent, preached it, nonviolent. And what did we see? What did we witness on the TV? We saw cops putting the dogs on them. We seen them bringing out the fire hoses. We seen them hitting them with the billy clubs and stuff like that, mistreating them. And America was in an uproar. They were in an uproar. America as a whole was in an uproar, including whites. Because they understood that there's decent people and indecent people. Like, this isn't right. You got guys like Thurgood Marshall and Booker T. Washington who argued their perspective and point of view in regards to their civil rights using the Constitution itself. Under God, we are all created equal. It says it right there in black and white. I'm a man. Why can't you give me these rights? Now, if I was to tell you once upon a time that George Washington and everybody else, they had the intention of abolishing slavery and getting rid of it early. They wanted it, earlier. They were going to try to get it out 20, 25 years, but it ended up keeping it. Because come to find out, it was a $3 billion economy. And they didn't have to pay them. They picked tobacco. They picked cotton, sugar canes. It was a major export for a brand new baby-born country. And we had trade with France, Italy, Spain, England. A $3 billion economy in those days with a workforce that you don't have to pay. You know, sometimes saying some of this stuff out loud, I'm just kind of like, man, I wish everybody could see this. I wish everybody could just do their own research, man, get in the book, see what's up. But when you're knocking down statues and removing things like Christopher Columbus and Abraham Lincoln, and you make that history obsolete and there's nothing to refer to, it makes it that much more to believe. Our children are being, indoctrinated with certain belief systems and this ideology. So we raise our children till they're 18 years old with, the morals and values and principles that we learned and grew up with, be it culturally, be it religiously or whatever. Their morals, their principles and values that you instilled in them. They take off to go to university and then come back. They're not the child that you raised. They come back with different belief systems. They come back with different ideologies. And then they try to preach to you what's what. They don't even do math the way we did. For decades, hundreds of years, we've all learned math the same way. Now we got this Common Core crap. And teaching our kids this nonsense. What are they doing? Are they lowering education? Wow, ancient Rome did the same thing. This ain't about all this stuff that's going on. Everything that we're going through. It's not about any of that stuff, man. And when Martin Luther King was out there in the front and promoting nonviolent, and we saw everything that had happened, what happened to him? Oh, he was assassinated. Malcolm X, he was assassinated. Medgar Evers, he was assassinated. John F. Kennedy, he was assassinated. His brother, Robert Kennedy, who died months later after Martin Luther King, he was assassinated. Mind you, they were friends. When you start rocking the boat and you start going against the current, I'll tell you what, man. And I know I'm confident. I know for a fact I'm not alone in this one. As soon as our civil rights they're being violated right now. But once they take that legal document and they make it obsolete, it's a wrap. And it's at that point I'll be an American renegade. Because that's what I'm going to fight for. That's what I want back. I want that to be a non-negotiable, as it should be. That's what it was meant for, to stay that way. It doesn't matter what technology gets advanced and stuff like that. That's our human basic rights. That's what we're fighting for. This is the country that we need to save. And when you got people who are extreme leftism and they're trying to promote this socialism stuff, look at Venezuela. Shout out to Patrick Bet-David. You can look into one on his podcast and research it. They just recently, in the last 4 years, we've seen right there just crash. Socialism does not work. But then people want to say, but we don't want that kind of socialism. We want this kind of socialism, kind of like Denmark or kind of like Sweden or whatever country that they got out there. But what they don't realize is, like, they're capitalistic countries. They just disperse the money socially. I'm not going to get into that. There's no leadership. If anything, that's what we learned from this pandemic. There's no leadership. There's none of that. We've seen mayors come out and not give any real resolve or resolution. We've had citizens here that protested with all Black Lives Matter, and they went to the police station. Why do that? Police says they're there to enforce the law. I'm not saying that. I understand that there's bad, dirty cops, and that was the point, and all that other stuff. I get that. But the reform that needs to happen, the new laws that need to be changed, or the rules that need to be changed, that's your congressman that does that. That march should have went over there. Bringing the building down. Yo, we need you to do something. The mayor. And you know what they did? They pandered to it. Oh, we see you. I'm with you. But there was no resolution. No resolve. Like, oh, you know what? I see you, and this is what I'm going to do. There was none of that. Not real. Not something significant that will make an impact. Personally, I think when it pertains to cops, they should all have body cams. Period. Point blank, period. Defund the cops. Get out of here. If anything, they need more funding. And you know what? Rather than going to an academy for 6 months and having 19, 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, 22-year-old kids who don't know the law are out there enforcing it, I think it should be treated like a 2-year degree. Go to the academy for 2 years. Learn self-defense, learn psychology, learn all those things. You want to be a cop? Cool. Look, it's the community that you're there to protect and serve. So it should be because the community is paying you already. So I think there should be a separate entity that polices the police, because the police governs themselves. The police polices themselves. Something happens, they're like, oh, we'll do an investigation. That's not to discredit, because not every precinct or city is like that either. You know what I'm saying? That's not the rabbit hole I'm trying to go down. Because when it comes to their internal affairs, 70% of the complaints that are filed are by other cops on other cops. So it's not all the way around, but I think that right should be removed. I think there should be a separate committee that, when there's an infraction or a cop gets out of line, that it's us that they're answering to, the community that they protect. I don't want to leave, because cops understand other cops. If someone's going through divorce, if someone's got a drug problem, so, you know what I'm saying? And they have a lot of these resources and programs in place to assist and help them when they're going through these things. We that's coming out of all of our pockets. We fund all that stuff. But I think it should be expanded. I don't think it should take 6 months and you be a cop. I think you should be in there for 2 years. Learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Stay in shape. Have a yearly thing where they get tested on their physicality. They're going to be, every time a cop goes into a situation, it's going to be heightened. You ever get pulled over by a cop and it's like, oh, we're nervous. Even though we know we didn't do anything wrong, or even if we know what we did wrong, maybe pass a stop sign or something like that, we're still like crazy nervous, especially us, the minorities. 10 and 2, keys on a roof, don't make fast movements. It's different for white people. But yeah, man, I think now we got all these movements like Black Lives Matter, but nobody's leading it. Nobody's leading it from the front. Nobody's leading by example. So you have actual peaceful protesters out there that do want to make an impact, that do want to have a voice and want to, represent something to get their voice heard. And then here it comes and gets hijacked by these radicals, and they riot and they loot, and that message gets diluted, and you can't see or witness or hear nothing because they just hijack your shit. Me Too. Where you at? It's like they only come out when it serves them the most. And there's no leadership across the board when it comes to these organizations, and when it comes to the people that we have on these political platforms that we voted in. If we bring more self-awareness as to what we're going on, the people that affect our everyday daily life, like our congressmen need term limits. You think that there's going to be a congressman that's going to be out there and promote that, write that into a bill? Like, hey, you know what? 12 years is the term limit for a congressman. And you can't be a congressman no more. And I think there should be a mandatory retirement age out of politics. We have to deal with it. When we're like 68 years old, there's mandatory retirement or some, with certain companies and stuff like that. Here we got a 80-year-old Speaker of the House, 80 years old, worth over 200 million. Why is she still there? You conquered this thing called life. You could just chill and eat ice cream out of your $20,000 fridge. We're being played. And I think it's time we all wake up. And if you notice, it's always big government that's been the ones that commit genocide. The establishment of big government. Every time there's big government, Stalin, Mao, Hitler. And they did the same. They had the same approach. A, for your safety. And they go and they take your guns. A lot of people forget, like, before Hitler went to war with the world, he went to war with Germany first. I think it was Abraham Lincoln that said, and I have a quote here. It's like, America will never be destroyed from the outside. If we falter and lose our freedoms, it will be because we destroyed ourselves. Isn't that what we're doing right now? If we go on the head up with China, China don't want this smoke. They don't want this smoke. It's a wrap. We're a force to be reckoned with when it comes to our military. a force to be reckoned with. Nobody wants to mess with us. They're not going to come on the head up. They won't. But when you have outside influences pushing propaganda, using news, mainstream media, news outlets, and social media and stuff like that, it's amplified. Congress and the Senate need to do something about social media, them blocking certain things, certain messages, certain people, but then letting other things ride. They control the masses. And the mainstream media is for one party too. Joe Biden is in so much crap when it comes to the hard drive and those business deals. All that got swept under the rug. He's about to be president. Nobody's talking about this. The FBI was sitting on that information since last December. Nobody's got a problem with this. There's over 300 million of us. This country's ours, not theirs. Not theirs. We need to make severe changes. And if my question is, when push comes to shove, is our military, is our local law enforcement really going to uphold the Constitution when it comes down to it? If we get a tyrannical lawyer or mayor or governor to come and tell us, hey, we're here to collect your guns or you're going to jail, that's a wrap. You gonna do it? Give your guns up so you could live? We're headed that way, man. We're headed that way. You got a country to save, y'all. Let me know what y'all think. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe I'm talking on my ass. Maybe I shouldn't pay attention to patterns. But there's a lot more than beneath the surface than what we know. But patterns are reliable, man. Patterns are reliable. All right, guys. I'll check you out.